Whilst most of us are concerned about our weight for appearance reasons, the bigger concern is the damaging impact that being overweight or obese can have on our health. Problems arising from obesity include type 2 diabetes, heart disease, certain cancers, infertility, back pain, joint issues, and asthma. Now that's quite a worrying list. And while death rates from heart disease have fallen in recent years due to better treatments, actual incidence has risen by 1/3 since 1997, and the incidence of diabetes continues to grow in line with rates of overweight. A recent analysis by the National Audit Office in the UK concluded that, on average, obesity can reduce life expectancy by an incredible 9 years. Now, despite this being the age of celebrity diets, for most of us, attempts at either preventing weight gain or losing weight fail, often due to unrealistic expectations. Or maybe reliance on misinformation and attempts to follow strict and sometimes bizarre diet regimes that just simply don't work. The aim of this presentation, then, is to provide you with the facts about fat, helping you to understand its value as well as the hidden dangers. More importantly, we'll learn that strength training is the most potent weapon in your armory in the war on weight loss. But before establishing how to lose fat, let's investigate why we need it in the first place. Surprisingly, consuming too little fat can be a concern, with intake below 20 grams or 0.71 ounces per day, possibly leading to problems such as increased tiredness and compromising the immune system. This could have the effect of increased susceptibility to minor health issues, such as colds and flu, or even more serious ones, such as osteoporosis. Fats, oils, and even small amounts of cholesterol are actually vital for our health. Monounsaturated fatty acids lower cholesterol levels and are excellent sources of antioxidants. In addition, the essential fatty acid known as linoleic acid helps to regulate immune response and can prevent inflammatory diseases. To maintain a healthy heart, then, a diet low in saturated fat is needed. However, the difference between a healthy low-fat diet and an unhealthy no-fat diet is immense. Cutting out too much fat can also result in the body not receiving important health benefits from fat-soluble vitamins. A common way to reduce fat intake is to stop eating red meat or dairy products. However, they're both good sources of iron, zinc, calcium, and vitamin B12. So instead of eliminating them from the diet, the best solution is to simply trim the fat off meat, choose lean cuts, and don't add any additional fats in the cooking process. Regarding dairy foods, most low-fat products carry the benefit of containing more calcium than their full-fat siblings. Fat is a denser energy source than protein and carbohydrates. It's also easier to store. However, there's growing scientific evidence that different fatty acids have differing capacities to be stored as fat. This could be the reason why in Mediterranean countries, people have lower body fats than expected, considering their high fat intake. With the traditional Mediterranean diet, the fat intake comes from foods such as olive oil, nuts, yogurt, and cheese. Now, fat can exist in your body in two forms. Essential fat is vital for your body to function normally and is found in various places, including some you might not immediately think of, such as your bones, heart, lungs, and kidneys. You can't reduce this fat, and in fact, you really don't want to, as your organs just wouldn't survive without it. Then we have storage fat, also known as adipose tissue, and it's stored beneath the skin. And this functions both as a fuel or energy source, as well as insulation against heat loss. The bad news is that this is the one you can see, but the good news is this is the one we can do something about and shed if we choose to. So, talking of shedding fat, although we tend to overcomplicate things, weight regulation ultimately comes down to balancing your energy intake, that's what you eat and drink, against your energy output, which is what you burn up by being active through the day and through your metabolism. If you're taking in the same amount of energy as you're putting out, then your weight will stay stable. If you take in more calories than you burn, you're going to gain weight. It's just simple maths. But the good news is that the math works for weight loss too. So if you burn more calories than you take in, you'll lose weight. We all go through times of stress, maybe working too hard, so it's much harder to exercise, or eating more because we're stressed. Emotional eating can have a major impact on our physical and mental health. Sadly, even a small additional treat eaten on a daily basis can show up on the scales. One chocolate biscuit or a cookie that's 100 calories could lead to gaining 5 kilos or 11 pounds in a year. And that's 11 pounds of fat sitting somewhere on your body, most probably your stomach or your hips. But again, there's good news here. Just a small usage of extra calories will, over time, lead to a significant weight reduction. So please hold that thought, as I'll come back to it later. Achieving a steady rate of weight loss of 0.5 to 1 kilos or 1 to 2 pounds per week is a great achievement for most people and is a level that requires dietary and lifestyle changes you can achieve and sustain. Your body is limited in its ability to break down body fat stores and is unable to safely lose more than around 1 kilo or 2 pounds of body fat in a week. More than this, and lean muscle tissue is being lost rather than body fat. And so, rapid weight loss is a bad idea and will usually result in rapid weight gain. This is because losing that lean tissue reduces the metabolic rate and leaves you with lower calorie requirements and more susceptible to weight regain. When considering exercise as an intervention, then, it's worth sorting the wheat from the chaff. So let me dispel a few myths for you. The first myth, you have to exercise to lose body fat. As I mentioned, if you want to lose body fat, you must eat in such a way that you create a calorie deficit. So one option is to eat fewer calories. People who are ill, for example, often lose body fat even though they don't exercise. Likewise, injured athletes who aren't able to exercise can also lose fat. However, including exercise in your weight loss efforts will bring many additional health benefits that lead to you being toned rather than just thin and will ensure you maintain your new shape, avoiding the yo-yo that's so commonly associated with dieting. Our second myth, the more you exercise, the more you lose fat. Okay, let's talk about hunger and exercise first of all. A lot of people find the more they exercise, the hungrier they get. So they end up eating more because they feel like they've burned off the calories, or maybe they think the food is a reward for working out. But if your goal is to maintain or lose weight, you need to think about your whole day's activity level, not just the hour you worked out. And again, figure out how it balances against the calories you took in. You may fail to lose fat if you're sedentary the rest of the day and overeat. In other words, keep using the stairs instead of the lift and resist the biscuits no matter how much you work out. And our last myth, couples who exercise together lose fat together. Now, you might be surprised to learn that a man and woman doing the same workout typically don't lose weight at the same rate. This may be because men tend to be heftier and therefore burn more calories. It also may be because women are more energy efficient to maintain adequate levels of body fat. A study at New York's Columbia University suggested that a pound, half a kilo of weight loss in men, equates to a deficit of about 2,500 calories. But to lose that same pound, women need a 3,500 calorie deficit. So you're not imagining that it's easier for men to lose weight. Exercise will help change your shape, but you should also focus on exercise to improve your health, to raise your level of fitness, to provide stress relief, and most importantly, for enjoyment. Exercising solely to burn off calories can make you feel like exercise is a punishment. If, on the other hand, you think of exercise as something you do for your body rather than to your body, you're much more likely to be able to sustain your exercise program and maintain a healthy weight. Now, let's try to establish the best way of exercising to achieve fat loss. Previously thought that continuous cardio exercise was the optimum route to slim pastures. But steady-state workouts, as they're known, that's exercising at a low enough pace to maintain for a long period, may burn calories, but they'll not improve your future capacity to work harder and burn more fat. Sportsmen and sportswomen in endurance pursuits often do regular training at high intensities and build up lactic acid to improve their capacity for working at higher intensities without lactic acid buildup during competition. In other words, you need to overload your present capabilities to improve your future capacity to exercise for weight loss. So the key takeaway point here is don't take it too easy. Now, a big word of warning. Weight management programs that set out to prioritize fat burning often advise working out at a steady state, which is below your anaerobic threshold, the point where that lactic acid builds up and renders the exercise somewhat uncomfortable. Cardiovascular equipment in gyms usually has a fat burning zone, program that alters the effort level automatically if the individual exceeds a working heart rate of around 55 to 65% of your maximum. This is justified by equipment manufacturers on the basis that steady state will have been reached and maximal ratios of fat burning to glucose or carbohydrate burning will be in place. In addition, they argue that effort level at this relatively low intensity is sustainable for some time, so you can maximize the total fat burned in the workout. Now, at first, this consideration seems sensible. But at higher intensities, a greater number of total calories will be burned for the same workout duration, and therefore the more fat as a percentage of this total. So, the bottom line is that working at higher intensities will maximize calorie burning. Therefore, higher workloads should be tackled during the workout. Even if these higher workloads can only be sustained for 30 to 60 seconds before returning to lower rates, it will still increase the total number of calories consumed. Naturally then, this leads to the use of interval training, whereby short periods of work are interspersed with rest, a principle we'll deploy in our fat loss workout in this series. If you want to lose fat, here's the truth. You have to put the effort in. Please don't be taken in by the latest fad workout or piece of gym equipment that promises phenomenal results in very little time and with minimal effort. So what specifically then is the role of strength training within an exercise for weight loss plan? Now, the key lies within the term we've just used, high intensity, as lifting weights that are heavy enough to challenge the muscles is clearly going to satisfy that criterion. But that's not the end of the story. Sports scientists have coined the phrase excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC for short, referring to the fact that after working out, the body continues to demand oxygen for the following reasons. Refueling occurs as the body replenishes energy stores by converting the lactic acid that is produced during intense exercise to pyruvic acid that can be used as a fuel to generate further effort. The body also needs to restock the muscle glycogen stores, which is how we hold that glucose for immediate use. Reoxygenation of the blood is necessary after oxygen is utilized in breaking down food to release energy. At this time, the body also has to work to return the circulating hormones to their lower pre-exercise levels. Temperature control requires energy as the body works to release the heat created by the exercising muscles and return the core body temperature to its optimum working level. Cardiorespiratory regulation implies that the heart and breathing rates will both be elevated after exercise and will only gradually drop, so energy will still be consumed at a higher than resting level. Now, the good news is that in order for these four processes to take place, your body uses energy after your workout has ceased, leading to an additional calorie burn, and that implies it's of significance in weight loss. Interestingly, research has shown that high-intensity interval training leads to greater EPOC than steady-state workouts, echoing the point I made earlier regarding the need to put in high levels of effort if you're exercising with weight loss as your ultimate goal. A key study in this area was published in Medicine and Science in Sport and Exercise in 1998, comparing how EPOC is affected by weight training and exercising on a treadmill. The study concluded that resistance training produces a greater afterburn than cardio exercise. This is because resistance training causes greater disruption to the body's homeostasis or functional processes at rest. So there will naturally be a larger demand for energy after the workout in order to return the systems to normal. The primary causes for this increased EPOC are the elevated blood lactate level, increased circulation of epinephrine and norepinephrine, together with anabolic hormones, which are those responsible for muscle growth. Until 2000, when a study was published in the International Journal of Sport Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism, there was a lack of evidence regarding whether men and women respond the same to resistance training in terms of this EPOC. However, this paper confirmed that indeed the sexes respond similarly, but it also established a very useful fact relating to the intensity of exercise, which is that the harder the training session, then the longer the EPOC will last. Subjects in the trial were shown to still have resting metabolic rate 4% higher than pre-exercise, an incredible 16 hours after their workout had finished. To quantify the effect of EPOC, data from a number of investigations suggested it could lead to around 130 calories being burned after exercise. Now, if you consider that to lose just 1 pound or half a kilo of fat, we need to create a deficit of 3,500 calories, then this is only going to have a minor impact. But the important thing to bear in mind here is that this little effect will come into play after every single strength training session. So you'll remember me earlier asking you to hold a thought. Do you remember the chocolate biscuit, the cookie? Yes, just as consuming only a few extra calories on a regular basis will lead to significant weight gain over a period of time, burning just a few extra calories on a regular basis will lead to a noticeable weight loss. Strength training then will enable you to achieve weight loss via 3 means. Firstly, exercising will burn calories due to the effort involved, so there will be an immediate effect. As we've just discovered, EPOC will lead to extra calories being burned after the workout, and over time this small number will add up to a big change in your shape. And finally, strength training will lead to muscle growth, which is metabolically more active than body fat, for example. So, as your body composition changes, your resting metabolic rate will increase. The great thing about this is that it means you'll be burning more calories at rest. Yep, that's right. Even when you're sleeping, you'll be burning calories. Guidelines were featured in the Journal of Applied Physiology and suggest 5 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions at 60 to 70% of 1 repetition max. Whilst we've established in this series that strength training brings many benefits, it's important to appreciate that in order to derive maximum results and to avoid injury, you need to ensure your technique is correct. And the optimum route to this lies in understanding how your body works. If you're aware of which muscles should be working on specific movements, then you can focus on these as the primary mobilizers. This in turn ensures that you don't focus your effort in the wrong muscle, which could lead to injury or overuse. You may remember earlier in the series, we discussed the 3 types of muscle contractions. So let's look at this in a little more detail so we can understand how this relates to strength training exercises. When the amount of force generated is greater than the external load, the weight will be lifted as the muscle shortens. And this is a concentric contraction. If the weight is greater than the force being generated from the muscles, gravity will prevail and the weight will be lowered as the muscle lengthens, known as an eccentric contraction. In the case of a static position, where the force of the muscle is equal to the load, then the weight will not move, and this is known as an isometric contraction. Remember, opposing pairs of muscles have to work in unison, in that one will have to relax while the other contracts in order for movement to take place. When analysing movements, the term group action is used to describe the relationship between various muscles as the skeleton moves. As a practical example, let's look at the case of elbow flexion, as in picking up an object or even taking a drink from a cup. This movement is brought about by a contraction in the bicep muscle at the front of the arm, and this is referred to as the agonist muscle, sometimes also called more descriptively the prime mover. The triceps muscle at the back of the arm relaxes and is called the antagonist muscle. Now, the story doesn't stop here, however, as muscles very rarely work in isolation, so there will be help, in this instance, from the brachialis at the front of the arm, and this is called a synergist. Finally, there'll be muscles involved in holding certain body parts in a fixed position to allow for the desired movement to be effected. In our example, the deltoid muscles will hold the upper arm in place, preventing it from swinging and so allowing for this bend at the elbow. This group action of muscles can be applied to any movement about any other joint. So, why don't we look specifically at the joints and the muscles that move them? Let's start with the elbow. Movements are flexion or bending brought about by the biceps. Then we have extension or straightening, action by the triceps. Also, we can turn the palm upwards using the biceps. And finally, we can turn the palm downwards using the pronator teres. The shoulder movements are flexion, lifting up to the front, brought about by the deltoid. Extension, or lowering the arm down by your side, is the latissimus dorsi. Abduction, lifting out to the side, is by the deltoid. And lowering back down, again by the latissimus dorsi. Horizontal adduction is bringing a lifted arm into the center of the chest, brought about by the pectoralis major. The shoulder joint is also the only one capable of full circumduction, which is moving the arm in a full circle, relying on the combined action of various muscles. The shoulder girdle, as opposed to the shoulder joint, refers to movement of the scapula or the shoulder blade. The movements are elevation, lifting the shoulders. This is brought about by the upper fibers of the trapezius. Depression, or dropping the shoulders, is the lower fibers of the trapezius. Retraction, pulling the shoulder blades back, is caused by the rhomboids. And the opposite of that, protraction, pushing the shoulders forwards, is brought about by the serratus anterior, a fan-shaped muscle on the front of the scapula. The lumbar spine movements are flexion, bending forwards, brought about by the rectus abdominis. Extension, or bending backwards, by the erector spinae muscles. Lateral flexion, bending sideways, and also rotation, twisting, are both brought about by the oblique muscles, and these work contralaterally, i.e. the internal on one side works with the external on the other side. The hip movements are flexion, lifting the thigh, brought about by the iliopsoas. Extension is lowering the thigh or taking it behind the line of the body, and that's brought about by the gluteus maximus. Adduction, or lifting the leg out to the side, is by the gluteus medius and minimus. And adduction, bringing the leg back into the center line, by the adductor muscles, the brevis, longus, and magnus. Knee movements are extension, which is straightening the leg, brought about by the quadriceps, and flexion, bending the knee, using the hamstrings. Ankle movements are plantar flexion, or pointing the toes, brought about by the gastrocnemius and soleus in the calf, and then dorsiflexion, pulling the foot up, by the tibialis anterior. When it comes to ensuring your strength training technique is both safe and effective, however, it's the muscles that don't move that are the most important, not the ones that do. The deeper abdominal muscles, known as the core, play a vital role in protecting your spine and will contract isometrically, literally bracing you when you perform exercises. The secret to maintaining core stability lies within the generation of intra-abdominal pressure, which lends support to the spine in motion or under duress. Intra-abdominal pressure is brought about by the combined action of the transversus abdominis, the pelvic floor, the multifidus, and the diaphragm. These muscles work in unity as contraction of the pelvic floor leads to a co-contraction of the multifidus, so stabilizing the sacrum, and also a co-contraction of the transversus abdominis, which will increase lateral tension in the thoracolumbar fascia. The end result is an increased intra-abdominal pressure. Now, we've mentioned a few new muscles here, so let's take a look at them in a little more detail. Transversus abdominis is the deepest of the internal abdominal muscles. Because of its origin at the thoracolumbar fascia, it's responsible for spinal stability. It causes compression of the abdominal cavity. The pelvic floor has 5 layers attached to the pelvis, with layers 1, 2, and 3 being skeletal muscles or voluntary, layer 4 being smooth muscle, and layer 5 being purely fascia. The thoracolumbar fascia is a diamond-shaped connective tissue in the lower back, consisting of 3 layers that are critical in stabilizing the trunk when transferring load from the upper body to the lower extremities. It's attached to many other body parts, including the spine and the ribs, plus a number of muscles, even embracing the erector spinae between its 3 layers. Tension within the fascia can be increased through motion of the arms, the trunk, and the lower limbs. Clearly then, in order to work out safely and effectively, you need to use your brain as well as your body, concentrating on the specific body parts involved in each exercise, something I like to call mind in muscle. You'll be pleased to learn that this gets better with practice. Your kinesthetic awareness will improve and your technique along with it, giving you confidence that every exercise session is moving you closer to your desired goal.